Yes, I am making a video about the dumb questions that you can ask your recruiter. I know there's no dumb questions, but bad ones, but they're just not good. What is up, guys? You're tuning in to Nikki MGTV for another military video for all your military video needs. As always, you can hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, or down in the comments below if you have questions. But as always, let's go right to the topic, and that is the 10 questions you can ask your recruiter, which are probably the not best ones. So let's get into the first one. What is the military like? What is this branch like? And I know you're probably going to want to click away already because you're like, that's so generic. But this is what gets asked all the time because I see this on Reddit. I see it on my comments. I get direct messages on Snapchat and Instagram. And a lot of you guys want me to, summarize a whole branch in regards to a message, which the best way to relay this would be, tell me how high school is. It's hard, isn't it? Like, you would seriously be like, oh, which part of high school? Are you talking about the social life? Are you talking about math? Are you talking about English? Are you talking about the sports after school? What about the dances, the teachers? What is the schedule like? Like, you look at all these different aspects of it, and it's a lot more in-depth than just saying, oh yeah, high school, it's cool, I liked it. Is that what you're looking for? No, you're looking for a more specific question to get you a better answer. So I would say a lot of these are refining your question to be more exact or more precise on what you're looking for. The next one I've talked about in other videos, but I want to bring it up again, is the issue of, I have this medical condition, it was this many years ago, my doctor said this, but it's really fine, there's no scar, it's whatever your case is. I see this all the time, and you literally could go to the New to the Navy Reddit right now, and there's at least like every fifth one is something about someone with a medical condition trying to go to MEPS. Nobody is here to guide you on whether to lie or not lie. And you already know everything you've read because you probably Googled it, which is smart. I'm glad you're Googling. But realize if you're seeing the same consistencies of 50-50 of like, lie, don't lie, do this, it's going to overwhelm you. You already know that. And you already know it's on you on whether you disclose, not disclose, whatever that is. Not encouraging it. I'm just saying, it's up to you. You are the one that's held accountable, and you're the adult. So don't ask that question. It's not going to get you anywhere other than someone telling you, hey, lie, don't lie. In reality, everyone's experience and medical background, history of their medical stuff is very different. So it's not going to affect them if you get caught for fraudulent enlistment, and it's not going to really matter when you start getting processed out and you're like, well, the guy on Reddit told me that I could lie about it, Is the military worth it? For me, it's worth it. I make videos about it. I'm still in it. I've been in almost 11 years. I've gotten a degree from it. I'm working on my master's right now. I'm an E6. I get paid pretty decently. I get vacation time. I have this nice house that I live in. For me, it's worth it. And I'm not saying that as a boasting for myself. I'm saying, but if you're a person that has a family that could pay for school, let you go party, rent out an apartment, pay for your car and go to college, maybe the military won't be quote unquote worth it for you. It's all perspective on this question, which is why it's so hard. Again, refine or narrow down your situation as far as your education goals, what you want out of the military, what are your financial constraints or restrictions, and that will kind of help narrow down what advice you're going to get from people. The next one is, what is this job like? This job in the military, what is it like? And I really don't like this question because it sounds simple. It does. You're like, if you work at this specific location or this restaurant and you're this position, this is your task, exactly what you do. But the military is not exactly like that because it can vary where you're at. And I give the example of me as a hospital corpsman. I have the scope of all of medical as a medical assistant for that's my job scope. So you could work in a pharmacy, you could work in a lab, you could work on an inpatient cardiac floor, you could work in an intensive care unit, you can work on a ship with the Seabees, with the Marines, and the nuance of what you do there, and the day in, day out, that there is no set standard exactly what you do. And I promise you, where I'm stationed at right now, us green side corpsmen and the blue side corpsmen that are stationed at the clinic, If you sat all of us down and said, what is your typical day? We would all give a totally different answer. So asking what the job's like in the day-to-day is really not going to help you out. And that's because working hours and time off and all that can vary as well. Also, the good and bad parts of what their jobs are. And again, it's perspective. How often will I deploy and when? And this is hard because there's not a standard. If that was the case, then our enemies would know exactly where every ship is at every second. They're probably looking at where they're at anyway. But I mean, like, knowing the schedule and knowing, like, that's all OPSEC information. And it's dependent on your command and what the mission of that command is. So, for example, when we were in Rota, the 4 destroyers that were out there were constantly going out every couple months. That was their mission, was to go on patrols. Now, if you go on a ship that's stateside, that mission might change. And to note something relevant in today's news is the Iran thing. Do you think that the people that were deployed out there knew they were going to go out there until things had finally started kicking off, or whatever's going on out there? I mean, the mission can change, the requirement, the location, how long it is. There's a running joke that steak and lobster is given on ships when you're going to extend your deployment. So it's very common for these variables to change, and I know a lot of you guys want these more set in stone answers, but realistically, there's a lot of this stuff here I'm covering is not set in stone. This one is about the ASVAB. I get asked, Nikki, how do I score this score in order to get corpsman, to get this job or that job? Realistically, you cannot do anything to ensure you get a specific score. There's the overall number scores, and there's line scores in specific areas of the test that you take. It's just like the SAT. Like, for example, if you're going to apply to a college and you know what their average SAT or ACT test acceptance is, cool, you have more data to understand what they're probably looking for when you apply. But when you take the SAT or ACT, you can't specifically say, I'm trying to score this specific score. You just do your best, and you're hoping it's going to be above the average. And then that way it makes you more competitive. This one is about waivers. How long do waivers take? There is not a set in stone time of how long your waiver will take. I've seen waivers happen really quickly. I've seen them take months. I've seen a lot of things. My sister-in-law was trying to join the Navy as well, and it was a year and a half, and she never got it back. Applied several times. I don't know why. She wrote congressman. You know, I'm not bashing the military. I'm just saying, like, there is no set time. Welcome to the military aspect of things, of like, hurry up and wait. Hurry up, get all your paperwork, and just wait to see what happens. That's kind of how it's going to play out. Next one is kind of about the recruiter, but you're not going to ask the recruiter this, is when should you talk to the recruiter? A lot of you guys don't understand that just you walking to that building does not make you obligated to do anything. You don't have to. Obviously, they are there for your informational purposes, to process you if you want to join the military, give you information, see if you're even eligible. You know, the first visit is not going to be you signing a piece of paper. So go in, understand you're not going to sign a paper until you actually go to the military processing center, where you will be offered to sign a paper. And even then, you don't have to sign a paper. Obviously, it's going to be in your interest if the recruiter wants to work with you. But yes, you don't have to wait to a specific time. I know a lot of you guys have school or something specific that you're wanting a timeline. Educate your recruiter on what your timeline is. That way they can say, hey, I'll give you information right now. You know, maybe a month out from when that ends, come back to me. We'll start the process again. But for now, you know, go back to your college class, go do whatever. Or they may say, hey, you know, let's process you through MEPS, but this is going to mean we'll get you a later ship date after school ends or after whatever ends. And that way you guys are on the same page. And the next is if you are asking about going from enlisted to officer. If you are in the office of an enlisted recruiter, then I want you to understand you are signing up to be enlisted. That person has no effect in how you will be able to go officer. They will have a very broad idea of, they're probably going to give you a sentence to answer and not really follow through, because they're there to make you join the military enlisted. They're not trying to make you an officer. If you're really trying to be an officer, do it from the start if you have the requirements. And I want you guys to grasp that going enlisted to officer is a long-term process, between the wait time for you to go from MEPS to sign the paper, to ship out, to then go to boot camp, go to A school, go to your first command, qualify. Maybe you have to take some classes or get stuff together like letters of recommendation to get your package together and network with higher ranking people, you're not going to be able to really network too good at the E3, E2, E1 level. So yes, put that in perspective that this is highly competitive. I'm going for my master's and it is highly competitive for enlisted to officer. This is going to be another barrier to you accomplishing that goal. If I could summarize this question, it would be, don't worry about becoming an officer unless you're going to stop seeing an enlisted recruiter and follow through with that, or realize that cross that road when it comes at your first command. You're not dealing with that issue right now. You have to walk before you run. So you have to go to boot camp. You have to do all this other stuff. That's not your primary goal at that time. That will happen at your first command. So hold off, wait. You can look up the steps, but the context of those steps will not really make sense until you are actually at your first command, and you can reach out to your command career counselor and your leadership to start that process. Last one here is, I can do this many push-ups, this many sit-ups, and this timed 1.5 mile run. What else do I need to do? Am I good to go? And I hate this question as well because yes. If you are passing the PRT or the physical standards for boot camp, great, good on you. You're at that mark, and that's where you want to be. But what I want to get across to you is boot camp is more than just a fitness test that you're going through. You are going to put your body through more strenuous exercises. And I will say that unless you've been through a conditioning program for some kind of athletic program, I know some people have played football, basketball, and done all these crazy camps. I mean, that might be relative. I've never done those, but I'm assuming they're pretty intense. So I just want to say, unless you've done something like that, prepare to put yourself or your body through more stress than what you would see just doing the push-ups, sit-ups, and 1.5 mile run, because that's honestly not too difficult. So these are all questions which I think are good questions. They just need to be tweaked, maybe a little more specific, or sometimes they're just not at the right time. So I hope that brings you guys some clarity on some of the most asked questions that I get that I'm sure other people are tired of seeing as well. And if you notice that you've had these questions, or you notice that someone else has had these, share this video, because I do think that getting this video in front of the right audience or the right viewer might help out a lot of people. But as always, guys, if you guys do have good questions or more specific questions that you want to ask me, you can always hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.